Tonight, as you lie here, somewhere on a small spinning world, the sky above you is holding a secret. You are already floating in space. You don't feel it, of course. You feel the mattress beneath you, the familiar pull of gravity, the soft weight of your own body. You feel the echoes of the day, the conversations, the unfinished lists, the quiet worries that tend to grow louder in the dark. It's normal to feel that way at night. Thoughts rising like constellations, one after another, hard to turn off. But somewhere beyond the ceiling, beyond the roof, beyond the clouds and thinning air, there is an enormous quiet. A silence so wide it can hold whole worlds in its arms. Our solar system is not a busy traffic jam of planets crashing into each other. It is a spacious, patient arrangement. A slow dance of luminous bodies circling in almost perfect predictability, like a mobile above a sleeping child. Tonight, we will walk there with the mind, not as astronauts in suits and helmets, but as gentle visitors in imagination, drifting from the sun's warm heart to the outer cold edges, pausing in the gaps, listening to the music of gravity and light. We will explore the science of this place, but softly, the way you might trace your finger along the rim of a glass, barely touching. Just enough to make a quiet tone, because somewhere deep in the mind, your nervous system is listening. It relaxes when it feels safe, when it senses patterns that are steady and sure. The solar system is one of those patterns, a great calm clockwork that turns whether you are ready or not, whether you are worried or not, whether you are awake or drifting toward dreams. So let your breath slow. Let your shoulders settle. The planets are in their places. The sun is burning steadily. The earth is turning with unhurried grace. You are already aboard this celestial ship. All you have to do now is rest and listen. Not in a hurry, not with engines roaring or fireworks blooming against the sky. Just a gentle lifting, as if your thoughts themselves had quietly loosened from the weight of your body and begun to drift upward. You are still lying where you are. The mattress holds you. The pillow supports the gentle curve of your neck, but in the theater of your mind, you feel yourself floating up, through the ceiling, through the roof, past the top of your home, above the streets where the last cars of the evening move slowly homeward. Up, through the cool night air. As you drift, the air around you grows thinner. The sounds soften. The hum of the city, the distant bark of a dog, the last fragment of a conversation. All of it begins to fade like echoes in a long hallway. A few lights glitter beneath you, scattered across the ground, and above you, a deeper darkness opens. You rise through the high atmosphere, where the air is so thin your lungs would have nothing to hold on to. Higher still, where the sky loses its blue and begins to unravel into velvet black. Higher, until suddenly, there is a moment of crossing, an invisible line where the word space begins to apply. And there, you pause. If you could listen here, truly listen, you would notice something strange. The absence of sound. Not just quiet, but a kind of profound physical silence. There is no air to carry waves of pressure, no medium for noise to travel through. A hammer could strike metal beside you, and your ears would hear nothing at all. The universe, out here, does not speak in sound the way we do. It speaks in light and particles and fields, in invisible ripples through space-time. To human ears, it is utterly, mercifully silent. You drift a little farther, and the earth becomes a round, glowing marble beneath you, blue and white and brown, swirled with clouds. The moon is a small, pale companion nearby. Beyond that, darkness, punctured by distant stars. And somewhere inside you, there may be a soft recognition. So this is what most of the solar system is like. Not the crowded, bustling scene we sometimes imagine from science fiction, with ships weaving between asteroids in thick belts of rock, but a vast, gentle emptiness, a space between things. Most of the solar system is not planets or moons or glittering rings. It is simply space, an almost unimaginable volume of near-nothingness, stretching between worlds like the pauses between long, deep breaths. If you were to travel from Earth to Mars and your path happened to avoid the thin trails of dust and rare rocks, you could float for years, without ever touching a single grain of matter. You might pass one wandering particle, then drift for miles and miles, and meet nothing at all. It is hard for the mind to hold this kind of emptiness. Our days are filled with objects, with screens and walls and voices and lists. Our thoughts crowd close together, jostling for attention. But out here, space itself is like a wide, open desert of almost perfect stillness. And yet, even this emptiness is not truly empty. If you could scoop up a little cube of this space, maybe the size of a sugar cube, and bring it down to a quiet laboratory on Earth, what would you find? You would discover that inside that small invisible cube there are particles, stray atoms of hydrogen and helium, bits of solar wind, dust so fine it borders on imagination. But compared to the air in the room where you now rest, their numbers would be astonishingly small. Near your nose, in the air you breathe, there are an unthinkably huge number of molecules in every tiny space, so many that we can barely write the number without resorting to strange notations and exponents. In the same volume out between the planets, there might be just a few lonely particles, separated by distances on the scale of meters, or tens of meters, like solitary travelers in an empty train station. What we call a vacuum in space is not an absolute nothing. Absolute nothing may not exist anywhere at all. Instead, space is a place where matter is simply rare, thinned out, spread so delicately that its presence becomes more like a whisper than a shout. It is like a concert hall after everyone has gone home, with just one or two people left quietly sweeping, or like a snowfall that has nearly finished, just a few shy flakes drifting down long after the storm has passed. Scientists build powerful machines on Earth to try to mimic this emptiness, to pump air from sealed chambers until hardly a single molecule remains, to study how things behave when there is almost nothing around them. But even our best laboratories struggle to match the comfortable, everyday vacuum of the space between planets. Out there, the void is simply how things are. If you close your eyes for a moment, you might picture the solar system not as a tangle of objects, but as a vast, dim cathedral. The sun is a great lantern at the center, stained glass bright. The planets are small altars and chapels, placed at careful distances. And between them, stretching in all directions, is air so thin it's almost not there at all, like incense that has finally dispersed, leaving only faint traces of its presence. In the highest reaches of such a cathedral, a few motes of dust drift in the light beams, unhurried, undisturbed. No crowds press against them, no wind hurries them along. They float in something that feels like forever. The solar system is like that, an immense hall of almost empty space, with a few scattered motes, planets, moons, rocks, moving in slow, predictable paths through the quiet. This emptiness does something important. It gives room. Room for the planets to circle the sun without constantly crashing into each other. Room for comets to take their long, icy journeys without endless collisions. Room for the delicate lines of gravity to weave their invisible threads without being snarled by too much debris. If the solar system were packed with matter, the way your bedroom is packed with furniture, and walls and books and wires, everything would be different. Orbits would be short-lived and violent. The sun might struggle to reach some worlds with its steady rays. The calm, nearly clockwork motion we depend on, days, seasons, years, would be constantly interrupted. But instead, most of what exists here is room. The planets are like small boats on an enormous, still sea, so far apart that each one can move on its own path without disturbing the others. Occasionally, a stray stone crosses a world's orbit. Meteors streak through atmospheres. Impacts happen. But for the scale of the solar system itself, these are brief, local ripples in a much larger, tranquil ocean. As you listen, you might begin to notice that this story of outer emptiness echoes something inside you. Your nervous system is used to scanning for what fills the space. For threats, for tasks, for messages on glowing screens, for unfinished responsibilities. It tracks sounds and movements and words. It rummages through memories and rehearses possible futures. It is very good at paying attention to what is there. But somewhere deep in the mind, there is also a need for what is not there, for the pauses, the gaps, the stretches of experience that are not filled with anything in particular. In music, it is the silence between notes that shapes the melody, gives it contour and meaning. A song that never pauses becomes noise. A story with no rests, no breaths between sentences, becomes overwhelming. The solar system understands this in its own quiet way. Between its luminous notes, the sun, the planets, the moons are great measures of silence, bars of empty space that give shape to the whole composition. Your own mental life can be like this too. Thoughts will come. Feelings will arrive. Worries float in like passing clouds. It's normal for the mind to generate sound, image, question, memory. But not every moment of consciousness needs to be crowded. There can be inner space between your thoughts, like the dark lanes between planets. A brief pause between one worry and the next. A soft, barely noticeable hush between one inhale and the following exhale. If you like, you can feel for that now. Notice an in-breath, cool air entering, chest rising. At the top of the breath, there is a tiny moment where nothing happens, a small, suspended silence. Then the breath turns, and the exhale carries the air back out, warm, relaxed. At the bottom of the out-breath, there is another moment, another little pocket of stillness. Then the cycle repeats. Like a planet circling the sun, your breath moves in its orbit, and like the orbits between worlds, it contains both motion and stillness, both activity and the space between. The vacuum of space is not frightening when you see it this way. It is not a threatening nothingness waiting to swallow you. It is more like an invitation, a gentle assurance that not every piece of reality has to be occupied. Between Earth and Mars, there are millions upon millions of kilometers of nearly untouched space. Light itself, racing at the fastest speed allowed by nature, takes minutes to cross that gulf. Imagine that for a moment. Minutes of unbroken distance, where nothing happens, where nothing needs to happen. If you were a small craft, coasting silently between the planets, you might look out a window and see the sun, a bright coin in the dark, and perhaps the faint glimmer of a distant world ahead. But between here and there, no walls, no traffic, no clutter, just the slow drift of your own motion. There is a kind of safety in that loneliness. No one and nothing pressing in. No constant jostling, just distance and time, and a gentle pull of gravity guiding your path. Your inner world, too, can benefit from this kind of space. When every minute is full of sound, of scrolling, of talking, of planning, your brain rarely has a chance to notice that it is tired. It pushes forward, moment to moment, thought to thought, like a crowded city street with no gaps in the crowd. But when you step, even in imagination, into a place like the space between planets, you are reminded that emptiness can be a form of kindness. A room with bare walls can feel peaceful. A single star in a dark sky can feel more meaningful than thousands hidden behind city lights. One slow, sincere breath can feel more nourishing than a dozen rushed ones. Scientists sometimes call the space between planets interplanetary medium, as if it were a thin, invisible fabric stretched across the solar system. It is made of those rare particles, of magnetic fields, of sunlight spreading outward in every direction. But compared to anything you know on Earth, it is almost serene. This serenity allows patterns to hold. Orbits remain stable for millions of years because nothing constantly slams into them to knock them off course. The gravitational relationships between sun and planet, planet and moon, are allowed to express themselves in pure, simple lines of motion. There is enough room for each dance to unfold. In human relationships, a similar truth often applies. When we crowd too close, emotionally, mentally, physically, without ever allowing space, rhythms can tangle, feelings can collide. It's normal to need closeness, and it's also normal to need distance, stretches of psychological vacuum, where you are not absorbing anyone else's needs, not performing, not explaining. Just as the planets need their distances to move smoothly around the sun, you need your pockets of quiet around the core of who you are. So as you lie here now, you might imagine yourself not only as a person in a room, but as a small world in orbit, surrounded by a vast field of forgiving emptiness. The things that matter in your life, your relationships, your projects, your memories, are like nearby planets and moons. They are real, they are important, they have weight, but between them, there is also air and sky and space and silence. You do not need to think about all of them at once. You do not need to hold every concern in your mind simultaneously. The solar system does not clump all its planets together in a single ball. It spreads them out, lets them breathe. You are allowed to do the same with your thoughts, one at a time, or none, for a while. You might imagine a thought as a small, bright object. You can watch it drift by, see it turn slowly in the light, then let it move into the distance. Behind it, there might be nothing for a while. Just an empty, calm stretch. Then another thought may appear, or another feeling, like a distant planet coming into view. There is no rush. Even the fastest beams of sunlight take over 8 minutes to travel from the sun to Earth. You can give your mind more than a few seconds to soften, to not know, to not respond. In this way, the physics of the solar system becomes a quiet kind of medicine. The fact that you could float between planets for years without touching anything reminds a deeper layer of your mind that it is safe, sometimes, to not be pressed upon. That there can be whole spans of inner time where no one is asking anything of you, where no performance is required. Out between the planets, the space itself is patient. A particle can drift for centuries without bumping into another. A grain of dust can follow the sun's warmth, feeling a faint push from the light, altering its path over unimaginable distances, with no sudden shocks. Your nervous system, when given the chance, can drift into a similar patience. Given quiet, it begins to downshift, heart rate slowing, muscles unclenching, brain waves lengthening into slower, more rhythmic patterns. You might feel it now, as you listen, the gentle weight in your limbs, the softening behind your eyes, the way your jaw decides it no longer needs to hold on so tightly. The space between things, between planets, between stars, between one thought and the next, is not a mistake or a void to be feared. It is an essential, generous part of the design. It is the room that allows movement without collision. The silence that makes music possible. The darkness that lets the stars be seen. As your awareness rests in this idea, you might envision yourself again, hovering just beyond the edge of Earth's atmosphere, looking out over the solar system's great, dim cathedral. The sun is there, a quiet blaze at the center. The planets are faint beads on unseen threads, each on its own path. Between them, endless distances stretch, calm and nearly empty. You do not have to cross those distances. You do not have to manage them, or fill them, or understand them completely. You only have to feel the permission they offer. The permission to have your own inner stretches of quiet. The permission to be a small, luminous point of awareness in a much larger, peaceful dark. The permission tonight to let more and more of your mind become spacious until thoughts grow softer, and silence becomes less like absence and more like rest. And as you settle deeper into that rest, cradled by the quiet between things, the solar system continues its gentle turning, vast and unhurried, holding you in its wide, empty, comforting arms. If you stay in the quiet space between worlds for a while, you may notice something else. At first, all you might feel is stillness, an immense, gentle emptiness stretching in every direction. But if you soften your focus, if you let your awareness adjust the way your eyes adjust in a dark room, another layer of reality begins to appear. Nothing here is truly still. Everything is moving. Very slowly, very faithfully, everything is dancing. The planets do not hang motionless in the black. They curve, they glide. Each one follows a path of its own, a long invisible thread stitched around the sun. From where you float in imagination, you could draw those paths as glowing lines, pale arcs sweeping out through space. Mercury close and quick, Earth at a comfortable distance, Saturn far and slow, looping with its pale rings in tow. These paths are orbits, circles of trust drawn over and over again in the dark. They are not rushed. They are not frantic. They are slow, patient journeys that take months, years, even centuries to complete a single lap. If a heartbeat were stretched out across the sky, if every thump of a heart became a full year, a planet's orbit might be the sound of that heartbeat, steady, repeating, dependable. Earth whispers its circle every 365 days or so. Neptune takes more than 160 of our years for one only slightly oval loop. Some distant comets trace paths so long that no human alive will see the same orbit completed twice. And yet, out here, where human clocks lose their urgency, none of this feels late. It all feels right on time. To understand an orbit, you can imagine a kind of cosmic balancing act, a relationship between falling and moving sideways. Picture, if you like, standing on a very tall mountain, tall enough that the curve of the earth begins to show beneath your feet. In your hands is a ball. If you drop it straight down, gravity pulls it toward the ground, and it falls at your feet. Now imagine you gently toss the ball forward as you drop it. It still falls, but now it lands a little farther away. Toss it harder, and it travels a bit more before hitting the ground. Toss it hard enough, and something surprising happens in the imagination. The ball begins to fall and miss. It is always falling toward the earth, pulled downward by gravity, but because it is moving forward fast enough, the ground curves away beneath it. With just the right speed, instead of crashing, it begins to circle the planet. It becomes an orbiting satellite, forever falling, forever missing. That is what a planet is doing around the sun. The sun pulls on it constantly, an invisible tug toward the center. Left alone, that pull would make the planet spiral inward and be swallowed by the star. But the planet is also moving sideways, carrying its own momentum, its wish to continue in a straight line through space. The result of these two influences, pulling in, sliding past, is a curve, a smooth, repeating curve. This is an orbit, gravity saying, "Come closer," and motion saying, "Let me continue," and the two finding a compromise that lasts for billions of years. You can feel echoes of this in your own life. There are things you are pulled toward, worries, responsibilities, people you love, fears that whisper their names again and again. There are also currents that carry you sideways, your habits, your patterns, the stories you tell yourself, the ways you've learned to move through the world. Sometimes it feels like you might spiral in too close to one single fear, or one single thought, as if you're falling straight into the sun of some problem, unable to escape its heat. It's normal to feel that way, especially at night, when the rest of the world falls quiet and your mind grows a little louder. But like a planet, you have other motions too. You have momentum, other perspectives, other parts of the self that keep you from being completely swallowed. Even when you are pulled by strong emotions, there is often a part of you that continues to move, to circle, to hold a safe distance, watching, noticing, staying in motion instead of collapsing entirely. Somewhere deep in the brain, tiny circuits keep track of this balance. There are regions that notice threats, regions that stir up energy to respond, and regions that soothe, that regulate, that say, yes, this matters, and you are still here, you are still moving, you are still more than this one feeling. Like gravity and motion, different systems pull in different directions. When they cooperate, your inner world can fall into an orbit of its own, neither frozen nor falling apart. If you were to trace the path of Earth around the sun, you might be tempted to draw a perfect circle. That image is comforting, regular, smooth, symmetrical. But the truth is even softer than that. Planetary orbits are not perfect circles. They are ellipses, gently stretched loops, a little wider in one direction than the other. If you could see Earth's orbit drawn to scale from far away, it would look almost circular to your eye, but mathematically, it is just slightly oval. Mercury's path is more noticeably stretched, Pluto's even more so. This is deeply reassuring in a way. The solar system is not built on geometric perfection. It is built on close enough. A planet doesn't need a flawless circle to remain stable. It only needs a path that closes on itself, that brings it back around, again and again, in a reliable cycle. The sun sits not at the exact center of these ellipses, but slightly off to one side in a special point called a focus. Even the heart of the system is a little off-center. Orbits wobble over time. They tilt slightly, they precess, that is. The direction they point slowly rotates over thousands and millions of years. The gravitational tugs of other planets nudge them, just a little, again and again. But overall, they endure. Seasons come and go. Years turn. The dance goes on. You might let that sink in. Even on the grandest scales we know, stability does not mean rigidity. Order does not mean perfection. Things can wobble and still be okay. Your own rhythms, your sleep, your moods, your energy across the day are not perfect circles either. You may not wake at the same moment every morning or fall asleep at exactly the same time each night. Some days your thoughts feel calm and clear. Others, they feel more scattered, more eccentric, a bit like an elongated orbit. But like the planets, what matters is not precision so much as pattern. Deep within your brain, in a tiny cluster of cells called the suprachiasmatic nucleus, a circadian clock keeps time. It notices light and darkness, adjusts itself gently each morning with the rising sun, and sends signals across your body, Now is the time for alertness. Now is the time for winding down. Now is the time for sleep. Your heart has its own pacemaker cells, embedded in its tissue, that fire rhythmically without being told, beating around 60 to 80 times a minute when you are at rest. Your lungs expand and contract, led by networks of neurons in the brainstem that generate a breathing pattern, like waves on a shore. These are your internal orbits. They are not exact. They speed up when needed, slow down when safe. But they persist, they endure, they bring you back again and again to a resting place. If you pay attention now to your chest, you may notice a small rise as you breathe in, and a fall as you breathe out. That gentle back and forth is its own kind of orbit, a loop that closes on itself with each completed breath. Inhale, moving forward along the curve. Pause at the top, a tiny aphelion, the farthest point in your breath. Exhale, returning, coming closer to stillness. Pause at the bottom, a perihelion in your lungs where everything is briefly, perfectly quiet. Somewhere deep in your blood, oxygen arrives and carbon dioxide departs in regular cycles, like small moons exchanging places around a planet. Your life is made of nested circles, one inside another, spinning at different speeds, all working together to create a soft, continuing stability. The universe seems to love loops. Electrons around atomic nuclei do not so much orbit as exist in clouds of possibility. But even there, the idea of something returning, circling, repeating, appears. On larger scales, stars orbit the centers of galaxies. Whole galaxies orbit each other in cosmic dances that last longer than the history of life on Earth. And in your mind, thoughts often move in loops too. You may have noticed how certain worries return, how familiar narratives reappear. I'm not enough. I should have done more. What if something goes wrong? These are like mental orbits your attention gets pulled into. They can feel frustrating, even frightening, when you want them to stop, and they keep circling back. But perhaps you can think of them differently. At least for tonight. A thought that returns is not necessarily a failure. It is a sign of a strong gravitational center, a concern, a value, a need that your mind cares about. Around that center, thoughts and feelings circle, trying to find balance, trying to understand. You are not trapped in these orbits. You are part of the system that creates them. You can adjust the distance. Just as the Earth does not crash into the Sun because its sideways motion is just enough to keep missing, you too can sometimes let your concerns remain at a distance, acknowledged, important, but not swallowing you whole. You might picture one such worry now as a small, glowing planet. See it as if from far above. Notice its color, its size. It has weight, it has gravity. There is a reason it pulls at you. But you are not standing on its surface in this moment. You are seeing it from the outside, from the calm vantage point of space. Around that glowing world, let your awareness trace a path, a safe, steady orbit, not too close, not too far. You can visit the worry in your thoughts, look at it kindly, then continue along your path, letting yourself move into other parts of your life, other feelings, other thoughts. Emotions too can behave like moons around you. They arrive, they circle for a while, they recede. Anger, sadness, joy, boredom, they all have their own periods, their own timescales. Some visit quickly and depart, others linger in slow, wide loops. It's normal to feel like you are revisiting the same emotional territory, again and again. But each orbit can be slightly different. A tiny bit shifted, because you are changing as you move. Just as a planet's orbit can slowly evolve over millions of years under gentle gravitational tugs, your emotional orbits can change under the influence of new experiences, supportive relationships, small acts of self-kindness. In the sky, no orbit is completely fixed forever. In you, no feeling is either. As night deepens, your brain itself moves through a set of inner orbits. When you fall asleep, you do not drop into one single, unchanging state. You cycle. From light sleep to deep, slow wave sleep. From there to dreaming REM sleep. Then back around again. About every 90 minutes or so, through the night, your brain completes a loop, visiting each of these states in turn. It is a sleep orbit, repeating quietly while your conscious mind rests. During deep sleep, brain cells fire in slow, sweeping waves, like crowds standing and sitting in a vast stadium, rising and falling together, clearing out some of the biochemical byproducts of wakeful thinking, consolidating some memories. During REM sleep, your eyes dart beneath your lids, and networks involved in emotion and imagery light up, weaving dreams that may help you process feelings and experiences. Round and round you go, without effort, without you having to direct anything. The orbit carries you, night after night, even when you don't remember the journey in the morning. Tonight, as you listen, you might already be entering the first of these cycles. Your body knows the path. Your brain has done this thousands of times before. You are falling into a well-practiced orbit of rest. Out in space, if you were to watch the solar system from far above its north pole, you would see all the major planets moving in the same direction, each on its own track, each with its own speed, like runners in a slow-motion race that has no finish line. Inside each planet's sphere of influence, moons loop around their hosts in smaller circles, which themselves ride on the larger circles around the sun. This nesting of orbits inside orbits is mirrored inside you, breath within sleep cycle, within circadian rhythm, within the longer arcs of your seasons of life. Sometimes people feel they must break free from all patterns to be truly themselves, to be free. But most of the comfort in the universe comes not from escape, but from stable, kind orbits, paths you can trust. You do not need to escape your feelings tonight. You do not need to escape your life or your thoughts. You only need to let them find a distance that feels a little safer, a little softer. You might imagine now that you yourself are a planet. At your core is something warm and steady, your basic aliveness, your capacity to feel and to care. Around you, in close, stable orbits, circle people you love and who love you. A little farther out, your projects, your responsibilities. Farther still, the opinions of strangers, the news of the world, the distant stars of what-ifs and maybes. Not everything needs to orbit close. Some things are meant to stay far away. Some influences, like distant comets, will pass through your sky only briefly. You can watch them appear, glow, and fade without needing to rearrange your entire path around them. At the center of the solar system, the sun doesn't chase its planets. It simply is. Massive, luminous, present. Its gravity reaches outward, and the planets respond, but the sun itself remains relatively steady. There is a part of you that can be like that tonight. A quiet center that doesn't have to rush after every thought, doesn't have to chase every worry. It can simply exist, breathing, resting, letting your inner orbits proceed at their own gentle pace. In this way, the slow dance of orbits becomes a kind of lullaby, gravity and motion, pulling and continuing, finding balance again and again over unimaginable spans of time. Planets that do not hurry, moons that do not ask if they are going too slowly, a star that does not question whether it shines correctly. Everything moves as it can, in the way it has learned, slowly adjusting, but always circling back. You, too, can allow yourself this unhurried kindness. Your heart beating in your chest is an orbit. Your breath is an orbit. Your days, with their waking and sleeping, are an orbit. Even your healing, whatever that means for you, is not a straight line, but a looping path that may revisit familiar places from a slightly different angle, a little farther out from the intense gravity of the initial pain. As you feel the surface beneath you now, supporting your weight, notice how the Earth itself is in motion, rotating gently, orbiting the Sun, carrying you through space without asking anything in return. You are already part of these circles of trust, whether you think about them or not. You do not have to earn your place in this dance. You are in it simply by existing. So, if your eyes wish to close, you can let them. If your thoughts wish to slow, you can allow that too. If some part of you wishes to keep listening, and another part begins to drift away into dreams, both are welcome. The planets will keep to their paths. Your breath will keep tracing its loops. Your brain will soon begin its nighttime orbits through the stages of sleep. All you need to do is rest in the knowledge that you and everything around you are already moving in patterns that are older and more reliable than any single worry. Circle by circle, breath by breath, you can let yourself be carried gently into the next turn of your own slow, beautiful orbit of rest. If you follow the quiet curves of the planets for long enough, if you trace their slow, patient orbits inward, as though running your fingers along invisible strings, eventually, all the paths begin to circle around one thing. At the center of this great, spinning family, there is a star. Our star. You have known it your whole life, even if you've rarely thought of it as a star. To you, it has been the sun, the bright, taken for granted presence that rises without asking your permission and sets without needing your approval. It has lit every morning you have ever woken into. It has silently watched over every afternoon you have ever lived. Tonight, as you rest in the dark, we will turn toward that light in our imagination, not to wake you, but to soothe you. Not with harsh glare, but with the knowledge of its steadiness. Because the sun, for all its fire, is a deeply reliable thing. From here on Earth, we notice the small daily changes, the way the sun arcs high in summer and lower in winter, the way the days stretch and contract with the seasons. But if we look at the sun over human lifetimes, something remarkable appears. Its brightness barely changes at all. Stars are born, grow, and die on timescales so enormous that entire civilizations can rise and fall without the star seeming to flicker. Our sun is in what astronomers call its main sequence phase, its long, stable middle age. It is not the wild, flaring infant it once was, when it first ignited in a collapsing cloud of gas. It is not yet the swollen red giant it will one day become, billions of years from now. It is simply steady, like a person in the middle of life who has learned a little patience, who no longer swings wildly from one extreme to another. The sun now lives in a balance. Gravity pulls its mass inward, trying to squeeze it smaller and smaller. Deep in the core, nuclear reactions push back outward, generating energy that supports the star against collapse. These two forces meet in a kind of truce, a quiet equilibrium that can last for roughly 10 billion years. We're about halfway through that long, calm chapter. The light that filters through your window at dawn, the warmth you feel on your skin on a clear afternoon, are born from this balance, a ceaseless conversation between compression and expansion, between inward pull and outward release. Far beneath the sun's glowing surface, in its central core, the temperatures are unimaginably high, around 15 million degrees Celsius. The pressure is immense, so great that atoms are forced into close communion. Under these conditions, hydrogen, the simplest and most abundant element in the universe, begins to change. 4 light hydrogen nuclei, protons, find one another and through a series of steps fuse into a single helium nucleus. In the process, a tiny amount of mass is lost, turned directly into energy, following the quiet rule written by Einstein, EMC2. Mass becomes light. Weight becomes warmth. Each of these fusion reactions releases a small packet of energy, a particle of light called a photon, born at the highest possible energies as a burst of gamma radiation. But this newborn photon does not shoot straight out into space. It does not leap from the core to your face in an instant. Instead, it begins a long wandering journey outward, like a child walking through a very crowded room. In the dense inner layers of the sun, particles jostle and collide constantly. A photon cannot travel far before it bumps into something, an electron, an ion, and is absorbed, scattered, re-emitted in a new direction. Step by tiny step, bounce by tiny bounce, it makes its way outward, not in a straight line, but in a drunken, random walk. This journey through the radiative layers of the sun may take hundreds of thousands of years. No one can point to the light on your hand today and say, "This began last Tuesday." The energy warming your skin could have been set in motion before the first cities were built on Earth, before your ancestors had names, long before your particular story began. There is a strange comfort in that. The sunlight that touches you is ancient in its making, yet always new in its arrival. It has been working its way outward for longer than human memory, and yet it appears each dawn as a fresh gift, as if it had just been lit for you. Eventually, after its long meander through the radiative zone, the energy reaches a region where the sun begins to behave more like a pot of simmering soup than a stack of glowing glass. This is the convective zone, where hot gas rises toward the surface, cools, and sinks back down again in broad, slow currents. You can imagine it as immense, rolling cells of plasma, each one larger than continents, turning over and over in a continuous, gentle boiling. The photon's journey is carried now by this motion, swept upward in luminous tides. At last, the energy reaches the sun's visible surface, the photosphere, a thin golden skin only a few hundred kilometers thick. From here, at last, light escapes freely into space, racing outward in straight lines at the ultimate speed. From Sun to Earth, about 150 million kilometers, that light takes only around 8 minutes. 8 minutes compared to the hundreds of thousands of years spent wobbling through the star's interior. A lifetime inside, a brief sprint outside. By the time a photon enters your eye or warms the back of your hand, it has been on a very long journey indeed. And yet, from your point of view, the sun simply shines, all at once and without effort. It is easy to overlook this relentless generosity. We live bathed in this steady stream of photons, so much so that our bodies have synchronized themselves to it. Deep in your brain, that tiny circadian clock listens for the first hint of morning light. When it senses dawn, it quietly adjusts your internal rhythms, telling your cells it's time to wake, time to be alert. As evening falls and the light fades, melatonin begins to flow, like a soft internal twilight, inviting the body toward rest. Your mood, too, responds to the sun's cycles. On cloudless days, some people feel a subtle lift, a little more energy, a little more ease. In long, dark winters, some feel sadness pressing in, like an extra weight. This is not weakness. It is biology. Your nervous system arose on a planet that has always turned beneath a steady star. It has learned the language of light and dark, of day and night. To know that the source of that daily language, the sun itself, is so stable, is like learning that the foundation of your house is made of rock, not sand. Over the course of an 11-year solar cycle, the Sun does have moods of a sort. Its magnetic fields twist and tangle, sometimes creating dark sunspots and occasionally triggering dramatic flares and coronal mass ejections, bursts of charged particles hurled into space. When aimed just right, these can disturb satellites, touch our power grids, splash color into our skies as auroras. But even at its most active, the Sun's total brightness changes only by about 0.1%. For life on Earth, this is the difference between a whisper and a murmur. We notice the auroras, but the overall warmth, the daily light, continues almost unchanged. In a universe full of violent events, exploding stars, colliding galaxies, our Sun is, by cosmic standards, remarkably calm. It is like a hearth fire that crackles now and then, but never goes out. If we zoom out in our imagination, we see another aspect of the Sun's presence: its wind. From the outer layers of the star, charged particles, mostly electrons and protons, stream outward in all directions. This solar wind is not a gale you could feel on your face. By the time it reaches Earth, it is very thin, like an extremely diffuse breeze in an almost perfect vacuum. But over vast distances, its effect is profound. Blowing outward for billions of kilometers, the solar wind carves a bubble in the thin gas between the stars, a protective cocoon around our entire planetary system. This bubble is called the heliosphere. Inside the heliosphere, the Sun's magnetic field rides on the wind, wrapping itself around the planets, spiraling outward like a slowly turning sprinkler pattern. Beyond the outer boundary, the heliopause, lies interstellar space, where the influence of other stars begins. The heliosphere is not a solid shell, it is more like a gentle pressure. A region where the Sun's presence is strong enough to deflect many of the energetic cosmic rays that zip through the galaxy. These cosmic rays, high-speed particles from distant supernovas and other explosive events, can be harmful in high doses, damaging DNA, disrupting delicate chemistry. Thanks to the Sun's outflow, many of these particles are softened or turned aside before they can flood the inner solar system. The Earth, in turn, has its own magnetic field, which offers an additional layer of protection, guiding charged particles toward the poles and turning them into curtains of light. We often think of the Sun as something to be shielded from, its UV rays, its flares, but in a larger sense, it is also our shield, a warm, glowing guardian, inflating a bubble of relative safety around our fragile world. You live your everyday inside this invisible embrace. It is as if you were resting inside a gigantic, slowly breathing lung of light and plasma, each breath taking years, the whole structure moving gracefully through the galaxy. Most of the time, you never know it is there. You simply go about your life, beneath a blue sky and a softly glowing star, unaware that on the grandest scales, you are riding inside a protective cocoon. Somewhere deep in the mind, there is a comfort in this image. Your nervous system, tuned over millions of years to notice sudden changes, loud noises, sharp movements, does not often have a chance to register something so consistently supportive. It is always scanning for what might go wrong. That is its job. But at the deepest level of your daily existence, the presence of a stable energy source, a protective bubble, a predictable day-night cycle, everything has been going right for a very long time. You are, quite literally, held by a star. The Sun's gravity keeps Earth in orbit, not too close, not too far, in a region we call the habitable zone, where liquid water can exist on the surface and life, as we know it, can flourish. The same star that could, in theory, scorch the planet if we were much nearer, or leave it frozen if we were much farther away, instead simply holds us at a gentle distance. That holding is impersonal in one sense. Gravity does not care. But when you look at the results, it feels almost tender. Every tree you have ever seen, every person you have ever loved, every breath you have ever taken has depended on this balance. Plants, with their chlorophyll, catch photons from the sun and use their energy to stitch carbon atoms together, weaving sugar from air and light. Those sugars become leaves, trunks, fruits. They become food that fuels animals. They become the molecules that move in your blood. There is a pathway from the heart of the sun to your own beating heart, a chain of transformations that links you to the star in a very literal way. You are not just warmed by the sun. You are, in a deep sense, made from sunlight that has been slowed down and given form. When you feel your chest rise and fall as you breathe, when you feel your pulse in your wrist or your neck, you are feeling echoes of the sun's steady output. Millions of times a second, in its core, fusion reactions are occurring. And the resulting energy, diffused and softened by distance, keeps Earth's temperatures within a narrow, life-sustaining range. On a cold winter day, when you stand by a window and feel a thin beam of warmth on your face, you are sensing that constancy. On a summer afternoon beneath leafy branches, the dappled patterns of light on the ground are messages from the sun, filtered through green, gentle, broken into soft shapes. Even now, in the dark, as you lie here, the sun has not stopped. It is shining, full and bright, on the side of Earth you cannot see from where you are. Somewhere, on the other half of this spinning world, a child is waking to their morning. Somewhere it is noon. Somewhere, afternoon shadows are just beginning to lengthen. While you drift toward sleep, others turn their faces to the same star, trusting, perhaps without thinking about it, that it will be where it always is. There is a kind of spiritual exhale in realizing that you do not have to manage any of this. You do not have to remember to ignite the sun each morning. You do not have to supervise its fusion, or maintain its magnetic fields, or tend its winds. You do not have to protect the Earth from cosmic rays with your bare hands. On the largest scale of your everyday existence, the energy source of your life is exquisitely, profoundly reliable. It has burned with near constant brightness for billions of years. It will continue to do so for billions more. In the face of that kind of continuity, the deadlines, the messages, the small crises of human days take on a different proportion. They are real, yes. They matter in your story. But against the backdrop of a star's slow breathing, they are also fleeting, like tiny ripples on the surface of a vast sunlit sea. If you let that perspective in, gently, without forcing it, something in your body may begin to loosen. The part of you that is always braced for the next problem might soften just a little, recognizing that beneath the changing surface of your days, there is a deeper current of stability. The Earth continues to turn. The sun continues to shine. The heliosphere continues to cradle your planet as it moves through space. You are allowed, for a while, not to be the one holding everything together. As you lie here, you might imagine a soft golden warmth, not as something sharp or glaring, but as a kind of distant, steady heartbeat, far above you. A drum of light, pulsing once every second in the sun's core, as fusion reactions quietly occur. That pulse travels outward, diffusing, softening, until only a faint echo reaches you in the form of a comfortable temperature, a familiar circadian rhythm. You can let that echo meet your own heartbeat. Feel the gentle thump in your chest, the slow rhythm of your pulse. It may not be perfectly regular, no living heart is, but it is there, again and again, carrying you. You do not order it to beat. It simply does, just as the sun simply shines. Two rhythms, one in the sky, one in your body, both steady enough to trust. If your thoughts are still busy, that is okay. They, too, are part of you. You don't have to banish them. You might just let them drift to the edges for a moment, as if they were small clouds passing in front of a vast, stable light. Behind them, the sun is still there. Behind your thoughts, something in you is still, simply present, simply breathing. Held by a star, wrapped in an invisible blanket of light and magnetic wind, resting on a planet that knows how to turn, you are allowed, in this moment, to let go just a little more. The sun will rise without your worry. It will set without your effort. And in the long, slow continuity of its fire, there is space, plenty of space, for you to close your eyes, to loosen your grip on the day, and to drift gently into sleep. If the sun is the great fire at the center of our sky, then the moon is the lamp by your bedside. Smaller, quieter, softer, not blazing, but reflecting, not demanding your attention, but waiting patiently at the window. After a day held in sunlight, the world turns, and the sun slips gently below the horizon. Shadows stretch, colors fade, and a cooler, more silvery presence rises to take its watch. The moon has seen every night you've ever lived. Even on evenings when clouds drew a curtain across the sky, it was there, just beyond the grey. Even on nights you were too tired or too busy to look up, it was keeping its patient pace, watching the dark side of your world. Sometimes it is a thin crescent, delicately hung over rooftops like a sliver of glass. Sometimes it is half a coin, sometimes 3/4, and sometimes a full, round lantern, low and luminous. Then, night after night, it withdraws again, becoming shy, retreating into darkness, only to return in its own time. As you lie here now, perhaps in a room with closed curtains, or with only a faint strip of sky visible, the moon is still there, somewhere above you, somewhere beyond you, tracing its ancient path around our planet. You don't need to see it for it to be real. Like so many of the forces that shape your life, it works quietly in the background. One of the moon's gentlest labors is its pull on the Earth's oceans. Gravity is a universal invitation. Every mass calls to every other mass, but the call weakens with distance. The moon's gravity tugs a little more strongly on the side of Earth that faces it, and a little less strongly on the far side. The difference is subtle, almost shy, but over an entire ocean's breadth, that difference becomes a tide. Imagine, if you like, the world's waters as a soft, responsive blanket draped around a solid sphere. Where the moon passes overhead, that blanket is drawn toward it just a little, swelling into a bulge. On the opposite side of the planet, the weaker pull allows the water to lag slightly behind, forming a second bulge. Now, let the Earth turn. As our planet spins once about its axis every 24 hours, different shorelines pass into and out of those bulges. To someone standing on a beach, the sea seems to approach and retreat twice a day, as if breathing an enormous planetary inhale and exhale. High tide, low tide, high tide, low tide. Over and over, with a patience that has outlasted mountains. The sun joins in too. Its gravity also pulls on the oceans, though from much farther away. When sun, earth and moon line up, at new moon and full moon, their tugs combine, and the tides grow stronger, higher highs and lower lows called spring tides. When the sun and moon are at right angles, their pulls partly cancel, making neat tides, gentler and more modest. But always, always, the water moves to a rhythm not its own. No wave decides when to arrive at the pier. No molecule of seawater chooses whether to be part of high tide or low. It simply follows the quiet, insistent choreography written into space and time, rotation, gravity, orbit. If you've ever stood at the edge of a shore when the tide is just beginning to turn, when the furthest reach of wet sand is marked like a delicate line and the water hesitates before returning, you've felt something of this rhythm in your body. A slight pause, a drawing back, a gentle advance. Your inner world moves like this too. Energy rises and falls within you. There are days you feel full, like a spring tide, thoughts bright, motivation high, emotions close to the surface. On other days you feel like low tide, quieter, drained, introspective, the shoreline of your attention pulled back, exposing things usually hidden. It's normal to have emotional tides. You are born on a world whose oceans are never still. Your mood is not meant to stay at a single fixed height. Chemicals in your brain, serotonin, dopamine, hormones like cortisol and melatonin, ebb and flow in response to light, to food, to connection, to memory. Some mornings, the inner sea rises easily. Some evenings, it goes out farther than you'd like. You are not broken because you have low tides. You are an ocean with a moon. High tide is not better than low tide. Both are part of the same system. At low tide, new shells appear, tide pools form, small creatures are revealed, and the shore rests. At high tide, boats can return to the harbor, and waves can reach higher up the sand. In the same way, your quieter days, your inward moods, your need for rest, are not failures. They are simply part of the pattern. Water returning from the shore to gather itself again. While the moon tugs at our seas, it also influences something more subtle, more long-term, the way our entire planet leans. Imagine the Earth in space, not upright, but tilted, about 23 degrees from vertical. If you could shrink down the solar system and hold it in your hands, the Earth would spin like a slightly leaning top, its axis pointing not straight up, but toward a point near the star Polaris, the North Star. Because of that tilt, as Earth orbits the Sun, different hemispheres receive more direct sunlight at different times of year. When the northern hemisphere leans toward the Sun, light strikes it more directly, days grow longer, and warmth gathers. That is northern summer, southern winter. 6 months later, the roles reverse. The southern hemisphere leans in, the northern leans away. Without this tilt, there would be no real seasons as we know them, only a gentle, constant climate banded by latitude, the equator always warm, the poles always cold, with less variation. The tilt is what gives your year its arc, the softness of spring, the height of summer, the mellow decline of autumn, the introspective hush of winter. Now, as the Earth spins like that leaning top, something could, in principle, go wrong. The gravitational nudges from other planets, the internal redistribution of mass, could destabilize the tilt over long periods, making it wobble wildly. Some studies suggest that without a large moon, the Earth's axis might have wandered across wide angles, sometimes almost upright, sometimes nearly on its side. Imagine how disorienting that would be for climate. Some eras might see the pole pointing almost straight at the sun for months, basking in its light. Other eras might leave it in deep, lasting shadow. Seasons would be less predictable, perhaps harsher, swinging between extremes more than they do now. Life could still exist, but it would be living on a far more capricious stage. Our moon calms that wobble. Because it is relatively large compared to Earth, much larger than most moons compared to their planets, its gravitational pull acts almost like a stabilizing hand. It tugs on the Earth's equatorial bulge, helping to keep the tilt's variations more modest. Over millions of years, the tilt does change a little, swaying gently between a few degrees one way or another, contributing to slow climate cycles. but it does not whip back and forth in chaos. The moon is a quiet anchor, keeping our worlds lean in a range that has allowed forests, oceans, and now cities to flourish. Its presence in the sky is not just poetic, it is practical. It has made home more homelike. There is something reassuring in knowing that as you live your life, choosing a career, falling in love, getting lost, finding your way again, the tilt of the planet beneath you is being soothed by a companion you can see with your own eyes on a clear night, and the story goes deeper still. Long ago, when the Earth was young, a colossal collision is thought to have taken place. A Mars-sized object, sharing our orbit, likely struck the proto-Earth, shattering both. Debris from that fiery encounter swirled around our planet, forming a glowing ring. Over time, gravity gathered that ring into a single body. The Moon. At first, the Moon orbited much closer, and the Earth spun much faster. Days were perhaps only a few hours long. The tides were towering, the pull between Earth and Moon fierce. But over billions of years, the tidal interaction between them has done something remarkable. As the Moon tugs on Earth's oceans, creating tides, the rotating Earth drags those tidal bulges a little ahead of the line connecting Earth and Moon. The Moon's gravity, pulling back on those misaligned bulges, acts like a brake on Earth's rotation. Slowly, very slowly, our planet's spin is being stretched out. Days lengthen by tiny fractions of a second every century. At the same time, the Moon is gradually receding, moving away by a few centimeters a year, as if giving us more room. Because of this dance, you live on a world whose 24-hour day, its sleep-wake rhythm, its working hours, its clocks and calendars, is partly shaped by the pull of the Moon. Every yawn, every blink in the late afternoon is connected by a long chain of cause and effect to a glowing sphere in the sky. The Moon itself has responded too. Over time, Earth's gravity has locked the Moon into a special relationship called tidal locking. The Moon spins on its axis in exactly the same time it takes to orbit Earth, about 27 days. As a result, the same face of the Moon is always turned toward us. When you look up and see those familiar dark patches, the Maria, the seas of solidified lava, you are seeing the same lunar face that every human who has ever looked up from Earth has seen. The far side exists, but it remains forever turned away, hidden from naked eyes. There is a kind of intimacy in that constancy. The Moon does not flash different sides at us like a coin tossed in the air. It turns, yes, but in a way that keeps one expression always facing home. Through all its phases, new, crescent, quarter, gibbous, full, that same half of its sphere is the one that reflects sunlight down to your window. Night after night, month after month, the Moon waxes and wanes in an ancient cycle of about 29 days. Human cultures, noticing this, built months' moons into their calendars. Festivals, rituals, harvest times were often keyed to the Moon's phases. In many traditions, the Moon has been a marker of women's cycles, of fertility, of endings and beginnings. In your own body, you are shaped not only by the daily rhythm of spinning Earth and the yearly rhythm of its orbit, but by rhythms that feel like small echoes of the Moon's cycle, hormonal patterns, reproductive cycles, shifts in mood and energy that seem to rise and fall with the passing week. Even if you do not watch the Moon consciously, your ancestors did, for thousands upon thousands of years. Deep in your cultural memory, the Moon is a timekeeper, a companion, a witness. And then there is the simplest, most immediate cycle of all, the day. About every 24 hours, the Earth turns once, carrying you from morning to noon to evening to night and back again. This turning supplies a backdrop to your life, so reliable it mostly goes unquestioned. Yet, inside you, a smaller, more intimate clock keeps time with it. In the center of your brain, just above where the nerves from your eyes cross, lies a tiny cluster of about 20,000 neurons called the suprachiasmatic nucleus, or SEN. This is your master circadian clock. These cells have their own internal rhythms, created by genes that turn on and off in a roughly 24-hour cycle. Even in constant darkness, disconnected from the outside world, this clock would continue to tick, though its rhythm might drift a little. Light, especially morning light, acts as a gentle hand that resets it each day, aligning it with the sun. When light hits special cells in your retina, signals travel along dedicated pathways to the skin, telling it, day has begun here. In response, the Sen coordinates the timing of countless processes across your body: hormone release, body temperature, alertness, digestion. As evening approaches and light fades, the skin whispers to the pineal gland, perched deeper in the brain, and melatonin begins to seep into your bloodstream. Melatonin is often called the hormone of darkness. It does not knock you out, but it tells your body that night has come, that it is safe to begin relaxing internal gears. Meanwhile, another system, the homeostatic sleep drive, has been slowly building pressure all day, as a molecule called adenosine accumulates in your brain. The longer you've been awake, the stronger this pressure becomes, like sleep's own kind of tide reaching for the shore. When circadian timing and sleep pressure align, darkness outside, melatonin high, adenosine built up, you feel the full wave of sleepiness. If sometimes you feel more awake at night, or sleepy in the late afternoon, or if your rhythms feel off, remember, inside you are many clocks, and not all of them keep perfectly synchronized time. Some people are naturally more like morning larks, others like night owls. Your biology has its preferences. Modern life, with its screens, shift work, alarms, often asks you to move against those internal leanings. But beneath those mismatches, the ancient cycles are still there: the spinning earth, the rising and setting sun, the waxing and waning moon, your heart's inexhaustible beating, your breaths rising and falling. Tonight, as you drift toward sleep, you might picture moonlight silvering the edges of the world. Imagine rooftops touched by a faint glow, leaves outlined against the sky, the surface of the sea catching a pathway of light that stretches toward the horizon. Somewhere, real tides are turning, water drawing back from a beach and then returning, exactly as it has done for untold centuries under the moon's gaze. Inside you, another tide is reaching its high point, the tide of wakefulness, preparing, slowly, to withdraw. Thoughts that were once sharp and bright may feel softer at the edges now, like stones under shallow water. You do not need to force them to go. You can let them follow their own rhythm, coming and going, like waves. If your mind worries that you should be more productive, more alert, more in control, remember, you live in a universe that moves in cycles, not straight lines. There is a time for rising, and there is a time for falling back, a time for fullness, and a time for emptiness, a time for effort, and a time for rest. You are not malfunctioning because you are tired. You are not weak for wanting to stop. You are following patterns as old as oceans and stone. Somewhere deep in your nervous system, evolution has inscribed these rhythms. Sleep at night. Wake in the day. Breathe in. Breathe out. Hold on. Let go. The moon, with its patient pull, has helped shape those rhythms, even when you cannot feel its hand directly. They are not giants in the way of fairy tales, with faces and voices and raised fists, but in the way of gravity, massive, silent, and powerful enough to influence the paths of countless smaller bodies. Among these, two stand out as especially majestic and watchful: Jupiter and Saturn. Imagine, as you drift outward, a small distant star of its own kind, bright, cream-colored, banded with cloud belts, growing slowly larger in your view. Jupiter. If you could move much, much closer, it would eventually fill the sky. Its diameter is about 11 times that of Earth. You could line up more than 1,000 Earths inside its volume and still have room left over. It is made mostly of hydrogen and helium, like a star that never quite ignited, wrapped in deep, swirling layers of cloud. From the top of those clouds down through its atmosphere, pressure and temperature rise with depth. There is no solid surface to stand on, not in the way we know it. Some spiral inward and crash into the giant. Some become caught, orbiting around it like tiny moons, never to trouble the inner region again. Jupiter does all of this, without judgment, without intention, simply by being what it is, immensely massive, deeply present. Its gravitational pull has shaped the architecture of our solar neighborhood over billions of years. Not every potentially dangerous object is intercepted. Now and then, an asteroid or comet still finds its way onto a collision course with Earth. Long ago, such impacts helped shape our planet, bringing water, perhaps even some of the ingredients for life. Much later, one such impact ended the age of the dinosaurs, clearing ecological space for mammals and eventually for us. But many other wanderers have been diverted long before they reached our orbit. Some have been captured as moons, some parked harmlessly in stable regions, some flung out into the far dark between the stars. Jupiter has, in this sense, been a kind of guardian, not a perfect shield, but a big sibling standing closer to the doorway, taking more of the knocks. Around Jupiter itself are swarms of small bodies known as Trojan asteroids, gathered at special points in its orbit where gravitational forces balance out, Lagrange points, like little eddies in a river. These Trojans move ahead of and behind Jupiter as it circles the Sun, like a pair of retinues traveling with a monarch. It is another way Jupiter organizes the chaos, collecting countless little rocks into patterns that, from a distance, look almost like order. Knowing this, some quiet part of you might exhale, because in the human mind, it is easy to feel as if every risk is pressing directly on your doorstep, as if every potential danger in the world is your personal responsibility to watch, to anticipate, to defend against. The nervous system, tuned to stay alive, can begin to believe it must guard the entire universe. But somewhere beyond your thoughts, beyond your inbox and your news feed and your untidy to-do lists, enormous, impersonal, benevolent structures are doing some of that work for you. You are not the only sentinel. On a scale far larger than your body, Jupiter is quietly modifying the traffic of space. On a scale closer to home, your own immune system does something similar, constantly scanning, capturing, and dissolving countless tiny threats, viruses, bacteria, malfunctioning cells, before you ever feel a symptom. You do not wake in the night to manage your white blood cells. They simply, tirelessly, do their work. Your brain, too, contains its own Jupiter-like guardians, regions like the thalamus and the prefrontal cortex, which filter sensory input and control impulses, shaping the flow of information so that you are not overwhelmed. You are not conscious of most of the sounds around you, most of the sensations on your skin, because your brain quietly diverts them, deciding, again and again, this can pass, this deserves attention. This can be stored for later. Like Jupiter, these systems are not perfect shields. Sometimes things get through: illness, hurt, intrusive thoughts, unwelcome surprises. But very often, they protect you without fanfare, without you ever knowing the specifics of what they have diverted or softened. There is comfort in stepping back, even for a moment, and remembering you are held within layers of guardianship, from the cellular to the planetary. As we drift farther from the Sun in our mind's eye, past Jupiter's vast domain, another figure emerges from the dark, slender, golden, and adorned with one of the most hauntingly beautiful sights in the solar system: Saturn. Where Jupiter's beauty is in its bands and storms, Saturn's is in its rings. From a distance, they appear as a single delicate halo, a smooth disk of pale ice wrapped around the planet's equator. Closer up, a spacecraft like Voyager and Cassini have shown us that halo reveals itself to be an intricate library of countless individual pieces. The rings are made primarily of water ice, mixed with some rock and dust, particles ranging from fine grains, no larger than sand, to chunks the size of houses, perhaps even mountains. Each fragment follows its own careful path, orbiting Saturn in a thin, flat plane. What looks like solidity is actually crowd behavior. What looks like a single object is actually a million small ones, each moving to the quiet music of gravity. If you could stand on one of Saturn's small moons and look out across the rings, you might see them as an endless floating field of ice, each shard glinting in the sunlight, each silently tracing its orbit. Narrow gaps and divisions like the Cassini division mark places where gravitational resonances with moons have cleared paths, sculpting broad lanes into the ring system. Shepherd moons, tiny satellites of Saturn, orbit within or near the rings. Their gravity helps maintain the sharp edges of some rings, gathering stray particles, herding the structure into more defined form, the way a border collie might guide a flock. The rings are thin, astonishingly so. Though they stretch out hundreds of thousands of kilometers across, their vertical thickness in most places is likely only tens of meters to a few kilometers. In proportion, they are more like a sheet of tissue than a solid band. Yet, from afar, they present as a simple, smooth circle, something your eye can take in as a whole and say, "This is Saturn." The mind is a lot like these rings. From a distance, from outside your own experience, you might feel like a single, continuous you, a single identity, a one-piece self. But when you move closer, there are thoughts, memories, sensations, beliefs, impressions, all circling in their own narrow paths. Some thoughts are large and heavy, like boulders in the rings, memories that have shaped you, beliefs that have been with you a long time. Others are tiny, like fleeting grains of ice, momentary impressions, little sparks of intuition, sensations that arise and vanish in seconds. Your feelings about a single event might themselves be a ring system: anger, sadness, confusion, hope, all orbiting the event in different layers, at different speeds. From inside, it can feel crowded. From the outside, someone might describe you in a few words: a smooth label, kind, anxious, quiet, driven. None of those labels can capture the complexity of your inner rings. Yet somehow, taken together, all those countless pieces, your memories and moods and stories, form something recognizable: you, an overall pattern, an identity that has continuity even though its components are constantly moving, changing, rearranging. You don't have to force those pieces into one perfect, solid thing. Just as Saturn's rings do not need to become a paved road to be beautiful, your inner world does not need to harden into a single unchanging narrative to be real. It can remain made of many parts, each allowed its path. Saturn itself, like Jupiter, plays a role in shaping the space around it. Its gravity influences the outer asteroid belt, helps confine or scatter material in the outer reaches of the solar system. It is less massive than Jupiter, but still enormous compared to Earth, still capable of bending trajectories and rearranging traffic. Together, these watchful giants, Jupiter, Saturn, and even Uranus and Neptune farther out, form a kind of outer council, Their combined gravitational fields create resonances, safe harbors, and barriers that help structure the vast region of icy bodies beyond Neptune known as the Kuiper Belt, and perhaps influence the distant Oort cloud, that theoretical shell of comets encasing our system. From your vantage point in a quiet room, under blankets or sheets, all of this might feel impossibly far away, too big to matter. But you are wrapped in it. Your planet follows a path that has been shaped by billion-year conversations among these giants and the Sun. A path that has remained relatively calm and stable, allowing life to take root and continue. And so, somewhere deep in your mind, hearing about these ponderous, watchful neighbors can allow a small softening. Because anxiety often whispers, everything is chaos. If you stop watching, stop worrying, something terrible will slip through. It tells you that you must be hyper-vigilant, that if you relax for just a moment, the sky will fall. But the sky has not fallen for a very long time. The universe is not only chaos, it is also structure and protection and resonance. It is Jupiter quietly rerouting a comet. It is Saturn's rings organizing ice into thin, luminous bands. It is stable orbits, repeating cycles, safe gaps carved out by gravitational patterns that have held for eons. Not every danger reaches you. Not every problem belongs to you. Not every uncertainty is yours to solve. There are giants in your own life too. People, systems, and inner resources that stand between you and the full force of the world. A friend who listens before you fall apart. A boundary you've learned to keep. A skill you have practiced until it feels natural, shielding you from old mistakes. There are therapists, artists, scientists, caretakers, farmers, engineers, all doing invisible work that helps your world function while you sleep. You are not awake to keep the power grid running, the hospital staffed, the satellites aligned, the fire stations ready. Others, whole networks of others, take turns being the vigilant ones, and even they are supported by deeper structures, by laws of physics that remain consistent, by astrophysical guardians that shape comet paths and deflect some catastrophic possibilities long before they ever approach Earth. You are held in layers of care you did not choose, but which nonetheless exist. You might picture Jupiter and Saturn now, far beyond your bedroom ceiling, far beyond the moon, hanging in the darkness like silent, enormous elders sitting at the edge of a family fire. They don't come closer. They don't call out. They simply are, massive, patient, watchful. Closer in, nearer the warmth, sit the inner planets, Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars, like younger siblings huddled around the sun's steady blaze. Farther out still, the icy family members Uranus and Neptune keep their distance, circling in the cold. Beyond even them, the faint, distant cousins of comets and dwarf planets linger in darkness. You live on a small, bright world near the heart of this gathering, surrounded by older, larger presences whose influence reaches you even when you cannot see them. As you breathe in, you might imagine drawing in some of that quiet stability. As you breathe out, you might release the belief that you must stand alone at the door of the universe, guarding all the thresholds by yourself. Your body, feeling the support of whatever lies beneath you, can begin to give some weight back to gravity, trusting that the bed will hold you. The earth will hold the bed. The sun will hold the earth, and the giants will help hold the rest. If thoughts of danger still hover, you don't need to force them away. You can let them become like small, distant comets, far out on the edge of your attention, whose paths are already being bent and altered by forces beyond your control. You can let yourself be, for tonight, not the guardian, but the one who is guarded. Just as rings of ice and dust circle Saturn without needing to plan their orbits, Just as tiny asteroids nestle in Jupiter's gravitational shelters, you can circle the center of your own life, of your own breath, without having to manage every rock in space. The watchful giants will continue their work, as they have for ages. Your own internal guardians, the immune cells, the filtering brain regions, the quiet wisdom of rest, will continue theirs. And you are free, now to close your eyes a little more, to let your muscles uncoil, to let your mind drift outward like a small, trusting moon circling a comforting, unseen planet. Not everything needs you awake. Jupiter is still there. Saturn is still there. The silent elders at the edge of the fire are still keeping their watch. You are allowed, in the shelter of their ancient gravity, to fall gently, deeply, into sleep, if you listen closely. To the solar system we've been drifting through together, you may start to sense that it is not only a place of distances and orbits, not only a sculpture of light and stone. It is also a kind of music. Not music we can hear with ears. There is no air to carry sound out there. But music written in timing, in repetition, in the way things move together. The planets circling the sun, the moons circling the planets, the small bodies weaving between them. All of them are keeping time. If you could translate their motions into notes, their periods into tones, their alignments into chords, you might find that space is humming with a slow, unwavering song. After resting with the watchful giants, Jupiter and Saturn, let's lean in a little closer now and listen for the harmonies hidden in their gravity. Because not everything in the solar system moves at random. Many things fall into patterns called resonances, places where orbits lock into simple, repeating ratios, where worlds and rocks and ice move together, like instruments keeping time in a shared rhythm. Somewhere around Jupiter, 3 of its largest moons are doing exactly this: Io, Europa, and Ganymede, each a world in its own right, circle Jupiter like beads on a string. Io, the innermost, completes an orbit in about 1.8 Earth days. Europa, a little farther out, takes about 3.6 days. Ganymede, larger still and farther out, needs about 7.2 days. 1, 2, 4. For every orbit Ganymede makes, Europa makes 2. For every orbit Europa makes, Io makes 2. By the time Ganymede has gone once around Jupiter, Europa has gone twice, and Io has spun around 4 times, arriving at similar geometries again and again, like dancers meeting the same partners at regular intervals. This is a 1-4 resonance. It didn't appear all at once. No conductor raised a baton and assigned these timings. They arose slowly, over millions of years, as gravity tugged on each moon, tiny pull after tiny pull, adjusting their orbits just a little whenever they lined up in certain ways. When you push someone on a swing, if you match the rhythm of the swing's natural motion, pushing a little each time they pass, the swing goes higher and higher with very little effort. Your pushes and the swing's own timing fall into resonance. Gravity can do that too. Whenever Io, Europa, and Ganymede line up just so, their mutual pulls add a little energy here, take a little away there, nudging their paths into more precise ratios. Over long stretches of time, the chaotic variability gets ironed out, and what remains is a repeating pattern, locked in like the groove of a well-loved record. This resonance does something important. It keeps the orbits from wandering too close together, prevents dangerous close encounters, and, through the perpetual tugs, it even kneads the moon's interiors, warming them and, in Europa's case, likely sustaining a global ocean beneath its ice. From far away, all you would see is 3 dots of light circling a brighter one. Up close, you would discover a dance with a rhythm so regular, it could almost be a lullaby. The solar system is full of such quiet relationships. Farther out, tiny Pluto and its cousin worlds share a resonance with Neptune. Pluto orbits the Sun 2 times for every 3 orbits Neptune makes, a 2.3 resonance that keeps their paths from ever bringing them into collision. Even though Pluto's elongated orbit crosses Neptune's distance from the Sun, asteroids in the belt between Mars and Jupiter avoid certain distances altogether, where an asteroid's orbital period would be a simple fraction of Jupiter's, like 1/3 or 1/2. Those zones are strangely empty, carved into gaps called Kirkwood gaps. The reason is resonance again. In those locations, asteroids would feel repeated tugs from Jupiter. At the same point in their orbits, like a push on a swing given just at the right time. Those repeated nudges add up, making their paths unstable, gradually moving them into new orbits or flinging them away. The gaps are like missing notes in a scale, places where the natural rhythm is destructive rather than soothing. Resonance, then, can be both a maker of harmony and a sculptor of absence. It can stabilize, as with Jupiter's moons, or destabilize, as with those missing asteroids. Either way, it is created not by intention, but by the quiet math of nature. Repeated interactions, tiny corrections, compounding over time. There are even places where balance becomes almost perfect. Between any 2 massive objects in space, say the Earth and the Sun, or the Earth and the Moon, there are points where their gravitational pulls, combined with the motion of an orbiting body, can balance out just enough for a small object to linger. These are called Lagrange points. Imagine the Earth and Sun as 2 dancers, with the Earth circling the Sun. Around them, there are 5 special positions, L1 through L5, where a small 3rd dancer could stand and feel the tugs of both partners and the spin of the dance. Add up to something almost still. At L1, between Earth and Sun, a satellite can hover, always in line with both, never drifting away too far. At L2, just beyond Earth on the night side, another satellite can keep pace in the planet's shadow, a perfect spot for telescopes that crave constant darkness. At L4 and L5, 60 degrees ahead of and behind Earth in its orbit, objects can rest in gently curved basins of stability, like marbles nestled in shallow bowls, needing only small corrections to stay put. These are gravitational safe zones, little eddies in the river of motion, where the flow of gravity and momentum creates quiet backwaters. Jupiter has such points too, and in them reside the Trojan asteroids, those swarms of rocks that accompany it in its orbit, one group ahead, one group behind, like a pair of loyal companions traveling with a king. In all these cases, resonance and balance create places where motion becomes predictable, where paths sync up, where small objects can rest in the patterns created by bigger ones. You might notice as you listen how similar this is to the way your own mind works. Your brain is a web of around 86 billion neurons, each one a tiny cell that can send electrical and chemical signals to thousands of others. Between them, patterns of activity emerge, thoughts, memories, sensations, habits. These patterns are not random. They tend to repeat, especially when they've been used often. Every time you practice a skill, recall a memory, or respond a certain way to a feeling, you strengthen a particular neural pathway. Connections between the involved neurons become a little more efficient, a little easier to activate. Signals flow more readily along those routes, the way water carves a deeper channel in soil. Each time it rains along the same path. This is neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to be shaped by experience. It is, in a sense, the mind's version of resonance. Repeated tugs, experiences, thoughts, reactions gradually adjust the orbits of your neural activity until some patterns become the default, the easier loop to fall into. Perhaps you've noticed this with worry. The more often the mind rehearses anxious scenarios, the more readily it seems to return to them. A small sensation in the body, a stray thought, and suddenly the same mental film begins to play again. At first, it feels like an invader. Over time, it can start to feel like background music, always waiting in the wings. That is a kind of resonance, not moral, not a sign of failure, but simply the result of pathways being used often. The hopeful part is this: resonances can shift. In the solar system, an asteroid that repeatedly feels Jupiter's tug at a certain point may be moved into a new orbit over long stretches of time. In the brain, a thought pattern that is gently replaced again and again with a different response, a kinder one, a more grounded one, can slowly create a new favorite path. It doesn't happen in an instant. There is no one-time fix or single insight that rewires everything permanently. It is more like listening to a piece of music, over and over, until you can hum it without trying. Each time you notice a harsh thought, and choose, even once, to add a softer one beside it. Of course I feel this. It's been a hard day. It makes sense that I'm afraid anyone would be. You are giving your brain a tiny gravitational nudge, a gentle push on a swing. At just the right moment, over months and years, such nudges accumulate. New associations form. A different pattern starts to feel natural. You may never eliminate the old resonance completely. Even in the asteroid belt, some objects remain in more chaotic zones. Some orbits are still complex and unpredictable. But the solar system, as a whole, has gradually settled from its early chaos into a more ordered, more peaceful arrangement. Billions of years ago, shortly after the sun ignited, our planetary neighborhood was a violent place. Countless planetesimals, small growing worlds, collided, merged, shattered. Giant impacts were common. Orbits changed often. Debris filled space like dust in a sunbeam. Over time, gravity did what it does best. It gathered, sorted, and simplified. The largest objects swept up smaller ones or flung them away. Resonances locked into place. Stable gaps formed. The main architecture of the solar system emerged. Planets in relatively safe, long-lasting orbits. Giants on the outside. Smaller worlds inside. Belts and clouds of leftovers kept mostly at the edges. The same potential exists in your nervous system. Early experiences can be turbulent. For a child, the world can be full of unexpected storms, strong emotions, loud events, sudden separations. The brain, doing its best to keep you alive, forms tight resonances with certain cues, a raised voice, a particular expression, a sound that once meant danger. Those resonances can remain into adulthood, even when the original threat is gone. You might find yourself tensing at harmless things, circling back to old fears, as if gravity itself were pulling you into them. It's normal to feel frustrated by this, to wonder why you can't simply move on, but somewhere deeper in you, the same laws that shape the solar system are still at work. With enough safety, over enough time, new patterns can begin to form. Supportive relationships, restful sleep, moments of play, art or nature, gentle practices like slow breathing or mindful noticing. Each one is a tiny gravitational tug in a different direction. Repeated often, they can carve out new stable zones in your inner space. like Lagrange points of the soul, places where you can rest, where the pulls of old fears and current reality balance just enough for you to linger, not swept entirely into either. Some resonances in you will stabilize, certain routines that keep you grounded, rituals that tell your body, we are safe now. Others, if they are too destructive, can gradually lose their hold. The way some asteroid orbits are emptied out, turning once crowded paths into quiet gaps. None of this is instant. All of it is possible. As you lie here, you do not need to understand the math behind it. You do not need to calculate orbital ratios or visualize multi-body equations. You can simply let the idea sink into the softer parts of your mind that even rocks and ice and gas clouds, matter with no feelings, no stories, can fall into harmony under the right conditions. If that is true for them, it can be true for you, a being made not only of matter, but of awareness. Your thoughts do not need to line up perfectly tonight. They do not need to be organized or pure. They can be scattered, like asteroids at the edge of a belt, and still become, in time, part of a gentle overall pattern. For now, they only need an invitation to soften. You might imagine, as a small experiment, that your breath is tuning itself to a slower song. Inhale, and count softly in your mind. 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhale. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Not as a task, not as a command, but as a suggestion. A way of humming quietly along, with the lullaby of gravity. When you breathe more slowly, your heart often begins to follow. Its rhythm adjusts, speeding up a little with each in-breath, slowing with each out-breath, a natural resonance called respiratory sinus arrhythmia. Your nervous system shifts toward calm, sympathetic arousal easing, parasympathetic rest and digest rising. Your body, in that moment, is doing exactly what moons and planets do, syncing one rhythm with another. The heart listening to the lungs, the brain listening to the heart, you listening to your own quiet needs. You do not have to keep this going for long. Even a few cycles can begin to tilt your inner balance toward rest. Gravity hums its lullabies across billions of kilometers, in the pull between sun and planet, in the resonant orbits of moons, in the gentle basins of Lagrange points, where small objects can linger. You are allowed, tonight, to hum back very softly, in the form of a slower breath, in the softening of your jaw, in the decision not to chase every anxious thought, but to let some of them drift into more distant orbits, visited another day. Or perhaps not at all. Somewhere out beyond the edges of sight, Jupiter's moons are keeping their 1/4 time. Trojan asteroids are circling in step with a planet they will never touch. Rings of ice are holding their narrow lanes around Saturn. Tiny points of balance hang motionless, while worlds whirl around them in great arcs. The universe is not purely random noise. It is also a deep, patient music. You are a note in that music. You are a rhythm in that rhythm. And as the night deepens, as your body grows heavier, you can let yourself be carried by harmonies that were here long before you, and will go on long after, patterns that do not ask you to be perfect, only to rest. For a while, within their gentle, ancient song. We've been drifting for a while now through the wide spaces and soft patterns of the solar system, following orbits, listening for harmonies, resting in the quiet pull of gravity. Up until now, we've mostly moved outward in space, from Earth to Moon, from Sun to giants, from rings to distant paths. Now, if you're willing, we can turn the same slow attention, not outward, but backward and forward in time. We'll keep the same gentle pace. Nothing sudden, nothing urgent, just a widening of the view, like leaning back from a painting and suddenly seeing the whole canvas. Right now, you are living in a calm middle chapter of a very long story. A story that began before there were oceans, before there were continents, before there was even an Earth to stand on. Close your eyes for a moment, if that feels okay, and imagine time itself as an ocean. Near the shore where you stand are the seconds and minutes of your day, the last thing you said, the message you read, the email you forgot to answer. Just beyond that, the hours and days, the small arcs of your week, tasks, visits, routines. But beyond that shoreline, time deepens, years flow like slow currents, centuries like distant swells. And far, far out, beyond the reach of ordinary memory, are the great, unhurried tides of billions of years. The solar system was born out there in that deep water, about 4.6 billion years ago. Long before any human eyes opened to see it, there was a cloud, a vast, cold cloud of gas and dust, drifting in one of the spiral arms of our Milky Way galaxy. It was not special to look at, just one of many such clouds, made mostly of hydrogen, sprinkled with heavier elements forged in the hearts of older stars, and spread by ancient explosions. Within that cloud, something disturbed the peace. Perhaps a nearby star exploded in a supernova, sending a shockwave rippling through the gas. Perhaps two clouds simply collided. Whatever the cause, a region of the cloud began to contract under its own gravity. Slowly at first, then faster. Material fell inward toward a common center. As it did, it began to spin, the way a dancer spins faster when they draw their arms in. The cloud flattened into a disk, a great swirling platter of dust and gas, with a dense, hot knot forming at its heart. That knot would become the sun. The disk would become everything else. At first, the disk was smooth, like flour sifted in a bowl. But nothing in nature stays perfectly smooth for long. Tiny clumps of dust stuck together when they collided, forming grains, pebbles, then larger and larger aggregates. Wherever the mix happened to be a bit denser, gravity gathered more material, and those clumps grew into kilometer-sized planetesimals, the seeds of future planets. Imagine countless small worlds, each one a rough ball of rock or ice, swarming through the disk like bees in a haze of sunlight. They collided often, sometimes gently sticking together, sometimes violently shattering into shards. The young solar system was not the quiet, orderly place it feels like now. It was a construction site, a storm of building and breaking, molten surfaces and smoking craters. In the inner regions, closer to the newly forming sun, where it was too warm for most ices to survive, rocky planetesimals merged to form the terrestrial planets: Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars. Farther out, beyond the so-called snow line, where water and other volatile compounds could freeze, larger cores grew, gathering thick envelopes of gas to become the giant planets: Jupiter and Saturn, Uranus and Neptune. Each of these worlds was, at first, a newborn, hot, glowing, often molten at the surface. Great plumes of vapor and atmosphere billowed out. The sky, if there had been anyone to see it, would have been a theater of fire and dust. Our Earth did not spring fully formed from the void. It grew through thousands upon thousands of collisions, each one adding mass, each one releasing heat. At some point in that early chaos, a Mars-sized body, sometimes called Theia, struck the proto-Earth in a glancing blow. The impact was cataclysmic. Rock and metal were thrown into orbit, forming a ring of molten debris. Over time, that ring clumped together, gathering itself into a single bruised, glowing sphere. The Moon. For a long while after that, Earth's surface was a hellish landscape. Oceans of magma, volcanic outgassing, a rain of leftover planetesimals still falling from the sky. And then, gradually, the fever broke. The surface cooled, solid crust formed, water, delivered by icy bodies or released from within, pulled into early oceans. The rain of big impacts slowed. Instead of constant bombardment, collisions became less frequent, more like occasional storms than a perpetual hail. There was a period, a few 100 million years after formation, known as the Late Heavy Bombardment, when craters were still being carved in abundance, especially on the Moon, whose scarred face still bears witness. But even that storm eventually calmed. Planets cleared their neighborhoods, sweeping up or flinging away most of the debris in their paths. The great collisions ended, orbits smoothed into the dignified ellipses we see now. If you look up at the Moon today, its pocked surface freezes that ancient violence in stone. But on Earth, plate tectonics, erosion, and the ceaseless recycling of rock have erased most of those early scars. Our world, from the ground you walk on, does not look like a veteran of bombardment, yet it is. Compared to its youth, the solar system you were born into is astonishingly calm. Yes, now and then, a comet flares in the inner sky, or a meteor streaks overhead and burns up in the atmosphere. Tiny rocks still fall to Earth every day, most too small to notice, harmless specks that flash and vanish. But the age of worlds colliding is over. The big architecture, the placement of planets, the broad strokes of their orbits has been in place for billions of years. Moons circle their primaries. Giants hold their distances. The sun burns on in its middle age, like a hearth fire that has found its sustainable pace. You live in the quiet aftermath of a long, wild adolescence. It can be soothing to realize this, to know that while your mind may sometimes feel stormy, the stage beneath your feet is currently one of the most stable it has ever been. The Earth has survived far worse than anything you will face in one lifetime. Global lava oceans, relentless impacts, mass extinctions and ice ages, shifts in atmosphere and sea level beyond our current imagining. Through all of it, something persistent remained. The turning of the planet, the circling of the sun, the capacity of life to adapt, to return, to reimagine itself. You are part of that long chain of adaptation, a brief, bright link in a story that stretches back not just thousands, but billions of years. When you are caught in a deadline, a painful memory, an unresolved conversation, your entire world can shrink to the size of that one concern. The brain, built to survive immediate dangers, has a habit of magnifying whatever is in front of it. From an evolutionary standpoint, this makes sense. It was useful for your ancestors to treat rustles in the grass as urgent, to pay close attention to the here and now. But the same system that helped them can sometimes mislead you, convincing you that every missed message is a catastrophe, every awkward moment an unhealable wound, every unknown future a looming disaster. Deep Time offers a different perspective. If you could compress the entire 4.6 billion year history of the solar system into a single year, the sun would ignite in early January. The Earth would form by late winter or early spring, molten and violent. The Moon's birth would be another bright flare not long after. Oceans might settle by mid-year. The earliest hints of life would appear in the heat of a long summer. Simple cells, no eyes, no brains, just chemistry learning to persist. For months and months, life would remain microscopic, tuning itself to this planet's changing conditions. Only in the last few weeks of this compressed year would more complex organisms emerge. Dinosaurs would stride onto the scene. In the final days of December, roaring and thundering across the landscape, only to vanish a few days later, when a rock from space interrupts their reign. Humans, modern humans like you, would appear in the last half hour or so of New Year's Eve. All of recorded human history, every empire, every love story, every piece of music, every heartbreak, every innovation would unfold in the final seconds before midnight. Your individual life in this compressed year would be a fraction of a second, a sparkle, a flare, a small, bright breath. From one angle, that brevity can feel unsettling. How can something so short matter? From another, it can be deeply comforting, because it means that most of what weighs on you, the long email threads, the awkward comment, the thing you wish you'd done differently last week, is happening on a scale so small that the Earth itself does not register it. That doesn't make your feelings invalid. They are real to you. And you are real to the small circle of lives you touch. But when your nervous system is on high alert, when adrenaline and cortisol flood your blood, as if you were facing a saber-toothed tiger, it can help to remember you are here on a planet that has quietly traveled around its star more than 4 billion times. It has seen entire ecosystems come and go. It has endured and found new balances again and again. Your worry, as consuming as it feels from the inside, is a raindrop in that ocean. You do not need to solve all of existence tonight. You do not need to carry the whole timeline on your shoulders. You are allowed to be exactly what you are, a brief, luminous witness, a conscious breath. In the long exhale of the solar system, at some point in the far future, billions of years from now, so far that even the mountains will have worn down and reformed many times, the sun will begin to change. As it slowly uses up the hydrogen in its core, the balance between gravity and fusion will shift. To maintain equilibrium, the sun will swell, brightening over eons, eventually expanding into a red giant star. Inner planets may be scorched. Mercury and Venus will almost certainly be swallowed. Earth's oceans will likely boil away long before its surface transformed into something that would be alien to us. After that grand, slow unfurling, the sun will shed its outer layers, creating a beautiful, glowing shell of gas, a planetary nebula, and what remains at its heart will contract into a white dwarf, a small, dense ember, cooling gradually over trillions of years. All of this sounds dramatic when told quickly, but remember the scale. We are talking about changes that occur over thousands of millions of years, not over news cycles, or election cycles, or even civilizations. By the time our star begins its red giant phase, everything you know will long have returned to other forms. Your atoms dispersed into soil and air and perhaps other stars. Your stories woven into whatever consciousness may exist then, or not at all. Far sooner than stellar change, human history itself will have unfolded and morphed in ways impossible to predict from here. To some, this might inspire a kind of existential vertigo. To others, a deep, surprising peace. Because if the scale is so immense that your entire species is just one chapter, then the pressure on you as one individual page becomes lighter. Mistakes lose their sting. Perfection loses its urgency. Even grief, while still profound on the human scale, is held in a larger context. The continuous recycling of matter and energy, the endless experimentation of life and form. On those nights when your brain replays every misstep, or tries to anticipate every possible future failure, it is acting on a very old instruction. Survive, fix it, be ready. But your body is also capable of another instruction, one that deep time seems to whisper. Rest. You are a moment. It's enough. The solar system, for all its age, is still in motion. Planets turning, moon circling, asteroids drifting in cold arcs. You are joined to that motion right now. As you lie there, supported by mattress and pillow, you are also being carried on a rotating planet spinning at roughly 1,000 kilometers per hour at the equator, orbiting the Sun at about 30 kilometers per second, while the Sun itself orbits the center of the Milky Way. In a journey that takes about 225 million years. You feel none of this. You only feel the pull of gravity, the softness of fabric, the rise and fall of your own breath. And that is more than enough. You are allowed to let the larger story go on without you. For a little while, to trust that the same forces that have been, shaping stars and worlds for more than 4 billion years, do not need your constant supervision. Somewhere deep in your mind, letting in the sense of deep time, can recalibrate the alarm system, turning down the volume on now, letting the body remember that it is a guest here, not the architect of everything. Your life is brief, and because of that, it is precious. But its briefness does not mean you must fill every waking second with effort. On the contrary, rest is part of what makes this small spark sustainable. As we drift through this long, slow story one last time, you might picture yourself as a tiny point of light on the surface of a blue world, in an arm of a modest galaxy, at one moment in a 4.5 billion year dance. Not a problem to fix, not a task to complete, just a witness, a pair of eyes that can see stars, a pair of lungs that can breathe air, made by the descendants of ancient suns, a heart that can beat in rhythm with the turning of a planet. And for now, that heart is allowed to rest. Whatever needs doing can wait on the shore of tomorrow. The ocean of time will still be there. The solar system will still be circling. The sun will still be shining its steady fire. Tonight, you can set down the weight of urgency. You can let your thoughts stretch out, thinner and quieter, across a wider horizon. You are here for a moment, in a story that began in a cloud of dust and light, and will continue long after every worry of today has faded into silence. Let that be enough. Let your breath slow. Let your muscles soften. Let your mind, so used to gripping, loosen its hold. The solar system will keep drifting on deep, unhurried time. You, bright little breath in its long exhale, are free now to fall softly into sleep.